Hello, welcome. I'm Chaotic Neutral Cosplay, and you have found your way to my 2023 Sacanime Winter Con Review. This is my first con review of the new year, 2023, and I probably picked the worst costume I realized as I was getting dressed to do this review in, because as soon as I get excited and start waving my hands, it's gonna go like this. Just accept it. The jingling of fortune. This is how you know where I am at the con. You're like, it's excessive jingling. It must be CJ. The downside to being very bright and jingly. So yeah, that's just what it is. This was my first time at any of the Sacanimes, and I went with my friends Perfection and Michaela.cos. It was both of their first times at Sacanime Winter.
Here we are, a trio of exhausted cosplayers. Here, we can scoot it a little bit more. There we go.
You're out of the frame.
Get everybody in frame.
I was hoping for a little bit of nice California weather, maybe some sun, a nice break from the rain up here in Seattle. And you know what happened? We flew out of rain in Seattle, we flew into rain in Sacramento, and I was like, this is just my life. Rain leaving Seattle, rain going to Sacramento, rain just follows us, we should have brought umbrellas. But the con itself more than made up for the weather. I had a wonderful time, I felt very welcome.
It was my first time here, and I just really loved the energy of the con. It was really chill and lively.
Like
it
the
was
new small con kind of energy.
Yeah, like everyone.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
I really appreciate that energy, and I think I haven't seen that lately.
Yeah.
And so I'm really excited for tomorrow.
Yeah.
Because we'll be there longer also.
Yeah.
And then we'll also get to go to the dealer's hall, which is really good.
Oh my god, the dealer's hall here is so good.
We spent such little time in there, but we spent too much money.
It's a good thing we had extra room in our suitcases, because like we needed it. I mean, like we bought so much merch, I can't even tell you how much merch we bought. So much merch. All things told, the con was a positive experience for me. There were a few things that I was like, it kind of took away from my weekend. So we're going to talk about all of that. We're going to talk a little bit about the overall feel of the con. We're definitely going to spend a lot of time talking about the cosplay vibe at the con, because I'm a cosplayer. I go to cons to cosplay, to meet other people. So that's what most of this video is going to be on. But we're going to talk about like the overall organization of the con, the panels, the programming, the guests. The guests were fabulous, and all that sort of stuff. So buckle up, sit tight, here we go, get ready for some jingling. So as you may know, if you've watched any of my other con videos, I am from the Midwest. So we kind of have the Midwestern hospitality thing, which is actually a thing. And sometimes it comes out on the West Coast. I don't exactly feel that. Like, it's like, this is cool, but I don't feel like everybody's really, you know, happy and like, oh my god, you're here, you look so cool. And I really definitely felt like Sacanime was one of those cons where it was like, oh my god, you're here, welcome. It's so glad that you're here. We hope you're having a great time. And it just felt very warm and welcoming. It was kind of a nice welcome to California con for me. So that was really cool. Everybody that we talked to over the weekend said that this was probably the largest Sacanime winter that they have ever been to, which is probably because their guest list was insane this year, which we will talk about later. I have a very specific section of the video to talk about the entire Avatar cast. I'm a big Avatar fan, so we will definitely talk about that. But it was really cool to see that this con is growing, is thriving, has a great community to support it, and just to feel welcome in that community.
Everybody that I talked to today was really excited to be here, so just like a really good vibe so far. So I'm excited about that.
It was a very good sized con center, and it definitely felt that it was full. It did not feel that it was overcrowded.
I like the setup. Everything is really well labeled, to be honest. I like that they have the app. The con itself has an app, so you can go and pull things up and see. I like that. Yeah, it's really nice. The con center itself has really good Wi-Fi.
Oh yeah, like
so
I've
we're like, oh my god, praise the Wi-Fi gods! We can
Yeah.
actually pull things up on our phone and like text each other.
I'm super glad that Sacanime seems to be growing, because good for them. It's cool to see cons grow. I love seeing cons get bigger. I love seeing them boom after the pandemic and the break. I love seeing cons getting new people to come to them. That's so cool. I'm one of those people that loves sharing something that I'm passionate about and just being like, yes, you love the same things I do. Let's be friends. And I love seeing cons getting bigger. But unfortunately, with cons getting bigger is also the growing pains of cons getting bigger. And I talked about this in my last KimoriCon review. It seems to be a pretty common theme with cons that are just getting bigger or expanding after the pandemic and having those growing pains of just having a little bit of disorganization and stress going on with the staff, with what's happening, that sort of thing. I will say that the con itself seemed very well organized. Despite the chaos of like people not quite knowing what was going on, they seemed well organized. They seemed on top of like the planned things, if that makes sense. What was scheduled, what was planned seemed to go very well for them. It was just the adaptation of maybe the escalators breaking down and that sort of thing. The adaptations that were happening at con were a little bit more difficult for them to deal with. Which, again, I understand. The con is expanding. The con is growing. There's a lot of new people helping to run things after the pandemic. So they're still having those growing pains, trying to get their legs under them and be like, oh yeah, you know, let me get a couple cons under my belt. So I wouldn't say it was a bad experience. Everything felt very organized, very well run. But it was definitely apparent that they were having some growing pains throughout the weekend. Not that it affected the con, or at least my experience, negatively. I will throw out there, one of the reasons that I might have had a better con weekend than other people's, because I didn't have to wait in any lines, because we actually got VIP badges this con, which I've never done before, so that was kind of a cool experience for me. Sacanime rolls their VIP badges in with their con hotel, so if you book a hotel through the con, you are eligible for a discounted VIP badge. And the three of us were like, you know what, why not? Because we've never been VIP. We're like, we want to get a bunch of signatures from the Avatar cast. Why not? Let's do it. Honestly, I would love to do it at more cons because the experience was really good for me, because we were able to skip the signing line, so we didn't have to stand in line for a couple hours to get signatures. We just wrote right up. It was awesome. We were able to get into a couple of the panels where they had reached seating capacity. Because we were VIPs, they still had a little section of seats set aside for the VIPs so we could go right in. That was really cool. We also got into the vendors hall about half hour early, which we wanted to take advantage of, but all three of us take a long time to look beautiful like this. It takes a lot of work to look like this. We intended to take advantage of that half hour time slot to get in early to do shopping, but yeah, we took too long with our makeup, so we just got in with everybody else and it was fine. We did have one misadventure picking up our badge. We actually went to the convention center to pick up our badge because most of the times that's where you go to pick up your badge. Sacanime does not have badge pickup on Thursday night at the convention center, which we found out when we got there, and there was absolutely no one there. And it was dead silent, and there were no signs for the con, and we're like, we feel creepy peeking around this abandoned building and peeking through all of, I can't see anything, this is my eye patch side, but like peeking through all of the windows and being like, are we in the right place, guys? I don't know. Ironically, this happens to us a lot when it's the three of us together. This seems to happen to us. We go places and we can't get in, and the three of us being mature adults, we turned around and we went back. And then we found out you apparently have to go to a hotel ballroom to pick up your badges on Thursday night, which makes more sense. So we went and we got our badges on Thursday night, and honestly, we didn't have issue with the line. We got there later. It was like 8:30, 9 o'clock. We just went right up, and they were like, oh, you're VIP, you know, let us check your IDs. And then we got our little VIP bags and we left, and that was super easy. I do want to talk about the COVID safety policy because as someone who is immunocompromised, that's something that's always very present on my mind and always something I have to be aware of. Sacanime did not have a COVID safety policy. They were going by whatever the state of California was requiring at the time. But I do respect that, you know, most of California and Sacramento is vaccinated, so it just made me a little bit uneasy as someone who has to be aware of that stuff. So the three of us all wore masks all weekend. Anytime we were outside of our hotel room, everybody was very respectful of us and our distancing and our mask choices, which made me feel a little bit better. So now let's talk about the Avatar cast. I mean, Sacanime had a wonderful lineup of guests. It was actually really amazing. They had a lot of Dragon Ball guests. They had a lot of my hero guests. I think they had Cloud and Sephiroth's voices from Final Fantasy. Don't quote me on that, but they were on my poster, so I think they were there. Those are fandoms that I'm sort of into, like, on the edges of, and I enjoy, but I went for the Avatar cast. I actually saw how many Avatar cast members they were going to have, and I was like, Sarah, we go into this con! And then we were like, okay, we're here, and it was a great time. But I feel like a lot of people went for the Avatar cast because they definitely had lines. Anytime they were signing, we went by there were lines to get up there and sign. It was really cool. And honestly, having seen a lot of their social media over the weekend, I think the guests had a wonderful time too, which is really great because not all cons can say that. I have definitely been to cons where you could tell the guests were not having a good time. And this looked like the guests were all having a really good time. They were all smiling. I've seen positive posts from most of the guests that I follow on social media, which is really cool. So, personal story time from CJ. I actually started cosplaying with a lot of the Avatar characters. I used to cosplay them for like 3 years. That was almost the only thing I cosplayed, and then I kind of got into other things, and now here I am in JoJo and Danmei. Woo! That's how life goes, right? So, I haven't cosplayed Avatar, I think, since 2018 was the last time I cosplayed Avatar. And so I got to make my Zuko, which I have been wanting to make this Zuko since like 2017, and I did not have the skills at the time, and I realized that I didn't have the skills at the time, so I was like, I'm going to put this aside until I have the skills to make this. So I was finally able to make it this year, to have the actual skills to be able to make it how I wanted it. I was very happy with it. And I will rant so much more about that. I have another video coming out that's all about how I made him, and like just a lot of more personal stuff what the character means to me, a lot of stuff that's very important to me. So if you are interested in that, that will be coming out in the next month. Sure. But it was really cool for me to be able to go up and meet a lot of the cast. I had met Dante Bosco before. He did not remember me. That's okay. He meets a lot of people. But it was really cool to actually meet him in that version of Zuko. And he was so excited about my costume, and he asked me how I made it, and like he was just like, wow, you did all this, and like he was looking at it, and that was really cool to me. And then I also got to meet May, which I know a lot of people don't really like May, but I've always loved her. She's been one of my favorite Avatar characters because we had very similar personalities growing up. It was the first character in like an anime or show that I was like, oh, it's me, it's grumpy, it's angsty, it's me, I get it, you know? So I've always connected with that character that way. And ironically, May's voice actor and I come from the same small town in the Midwest, which is crazy, right? And it's funny because when I used to cosplay the character May, I would meet people all the time who knew the actor in real life. And they would be like, I know her. Let me get a picture of you so I can send it to her because she's going to be so excited because nobody ever cosplays May. And so she's probably seen like a half dozen photos of me before. And I've been trying to track her down since like I started cosplaying to get her autograph specifically. And ironically, it took both of us moving to the West Coast for me to like meet her and get her autograph. But like I was able to talk with her. We talked for actually about 10 minutes, and it was the coolest thing. Like, she was a really down-to-earth person. We talked about cosplay. We talked about the show. We talked about the small town that we were both from. Personally, I think that was my favorite guest interaction out of all the ones that I had. They were all amazing and wonderful. I think that was my personal favorite. And then I really enjoyed the moment that I witnessed from afar because I was standing there holding things like a good cosplay boyfriend. It was my turn to be the cosplay boyfriend while Perfection got to be the cosplay star and go up and meet the Cabbage Man because that was her very, very exciting moment of the weekend. She was so excited to meet the Cabbage Man. It was freaking adorable. I love her so much. She's adorable. Go squish her cheeks. Tell her she's adorable. Squish, squish. So she was cosplaying the Cabbage Man, and she went up to me, the Cabbage Man, and I'm just watching, and I see them both start, like, waving, like, just gesticulating wildly in the air, and then they both had cabbages in their hands, and they're just, like, waving around, and, like...
I don't know what was going on, but there was cabbages and just wild gesticulation on both parts.
He brought out his cabbage, like, there was a person in front of me, So like, you know, obviously like you can't just like skip over anyone and you have to like talk to them, but like when the person was like, you know, figuring out what they wanted to have signed, he had a cabbage and like we just signaled each other with the cabbages. He's like, because he was like, I recognize you, and I'm like, I recognize you with your cabbage. It was a bonding moment. It was great. But yeah, he was so chill.
They had the same cabbage energy, and I'm like, this is either great or terrifying. I don't know what's going on, but this is interesting to witness. So, needless to say, we had a great time with the guests at Sacanime, and everyone that I spoke to who met the guests said that they had a wonderful time interacting with them, and it seemed like all of the guests had a wonderful time, which is a really big thing. So, that was very cool. So now it is time to cover my favorite subject, which is cosplay. You came to me, and my name is Chaotic Neutral Cosplay. I don't know why you would expect anything else. Here we are, we're going to talk about the cosplay at Sacanime. So, overall, I would say Sacanime has great, very chill cosplay con vibes. Kind of like a very good con for like your first con, or just a chill winter con that you're like, yeah, I don't want to try too hard at, but I want to have fun, which is great. It is definitely not a cosplay centric con. Like say if you go to KatsuCon, which is actually my next con, that's the cosplay con you go to cosplay, to bring the big things. Sacanime did not feel like that. It felt like we're here to have fun. We don't care what you're wearing. As long as you are having a good time and you're making friends and having a good time with them, that is good enough for us. And that honestly is so refreshing to find at a con. It was really nice. I loved that probably like 75% of the people that I saw were cosplaying. And again, not every con is like that. Some cons you go to and not everybody's in cosplay. So I love that there were so many cosplays at this con. And what was really cool to me about Sacanime was that there was a lot of really creative cosplay. Like just stuff that I never would have thought of that people use to make their cosplays. And I'm like, that's actually a really brilliant idea. There were a lot of different Danmei cosplays, which like obviously I love Danmei. That's my other favorite thing. Get the jingle for the Danmei cosplayers. Woo! So it was really cool to meet all the different Danmei cosplayers, to get to know them. It was also really cool just, yeah, to see all the creative cosplay and what people were doing and wearing. And everybody obviously was having a lot of fun, which was really nice because that's refreshing to be at a con where everybody's very excited to be in cosplay and very passionate. And there was a lot of Genshin Impact. There was a more Fullmetal Alchemist than I was expecting, which is cool because we obviously cosplayed Greed and Ling. So that was fun. And then I saw a lot of My Hero and Dragon Ball, which wasn't, again, they had a lot of voice actors from My Hero and Dragon Ball, so that was also kind of nice to see that. So I saw a lot of like older retro cosplays, and I saw a lot of newer cosplays, so it was kind of a nice balance to see both of those, to go to a con where you see, you know, both the retro cosplay and the newer cosplay, like Genshin and VTuber. There was a lot of VTubers, so if you were in any way into the VTuber scene, this was a great con for that. It was so good. So I like Ren and I like Luca. They are my boys. It was enjoyable to see everyone wearing that. It was enjoyable to see all the Genshin. And then, yes, there were so many Danmei cosplayers, and a lot of them had made their own cosplays. So that was really cool to see all the different Danmei cosplayers. I wish there had been a Danmei meetup or even an Avatar meetup. Everybody I talked to was a little bit disappointed with the meetup schedule this year. They said, yeah, normally it's a lot better, and there's like nothing this year. So I was a little bit disappointed with the lack of cosplay meetups, because I would have loved to have all the Danmei MXTX characters in one spot to be able to meet everybody at the same time, you know? Like, I feel like it was a really missed opportunity to have an Avatar meetup, because there were so many Avatar cosplayers there who were really good, and yet there was no Avatar meetup. So I'm a little bit sad about that because I would have loved, as a Zuko cosplayer, to go in and meet all these other Avatar cosplayers and like connect with them and be like, oh my god, you go to SakuraCon, let's do this, or you go to Fanime, me too, let's meet up and do an Avatar group. So I was a little disappointed with the lack of fan meetups this year. The cosplay crowd itself seemed a lot younger, which is really cool to have a con that's a good like introductory con for younger cosplayers. I wish there'd been a little bit more content that was focused on older cosplayers, because again, I am an older, over 30s cosplayer, and sometimes it's just nice to have like those 18 plus things where you're like, okay, you know, I love having spaces where I can connect with younger cosplayers, and you know, I like being your con dad. I want to be your con dad and be like, yes, go do the thing. I will encourage you to do the thing and do all the things. Yes, I will be so proud. I am so proud of all my con children. If you are my con children of mine, I'm so proud of all of you guys. But like, I still wish there'd been a little bit more just content, or like a space for like the 18 plus stuff, just for the older cosplayers to kind of meet. But it was still really cool to meet everybody, and I love that so many of the younger cosplayers are obviously very passionate about what they're doing and what they're cosplaying, and it's so cool to see, as somebody who's been cosplaying for a while, to see somebody who's just getting into it and starting to find like their cosplay legs and being like, yes, I made this, and being so proud of it. I'm so proud of you guys making your own cosplays, wearing them, learning new stuff, and having fun. That's so cool for me to see. So it was a really good con in that regard, to be able to go in and see all the younger cosplayers, and it seems like a really good community down there, so I'm very excited about that. I'm very happy for you guys. I did not make it to the cosplay contest this year. What were we doing? I think we were in Hualien, and we were in the dealer's hall buying hairpins because we need 17 hairpins and details. Anyway, we unfortunately did not make it to the cosplay contest, but from what I've heard from people who have gone before or entered before, it's always a good time. It seems to be well run, and it's fun to meet other competitors and people who made their cosplay and just bond that way, which is always a really good thing to hear, positive feedback on a cosplay contest, because sometimes people are like, no, this one's awful, it hasn't run well. So I'm glad to hear positive feedback from this one. I wish we would have made it. Unfortunately, again, we were just like jewelry. We must adorn ourselves and jingle more. So let's talk about panels and content. The only panel that I personally was able to make it to at Sacanime was the Avatar cast panel on Sunday, which was the biggest panel of the weekend. It was there were no seats left. Everybody was there. It was huge. And who can blame him? There's like 13 cast members from Avatar there. It's insane. And it was honestly such a good panel. They did it as a question and answer panel. So I was a little bit skeptical because I'm like, sometimes the question and answer panels don't go so well. But honestly, this one was really well done. The cast was engaging. They had wonderful things to say. I honestly teared up a little bit. And Uncle Iroh was talking about like what it meant to come in and take over this role, and how he tried to respect first voice actor, and how he had done the role and how he wanted to bring justice to it. And honestly, he shared a couple stories about how just the character of Iroh has meant so much to him and helped him personally through a lot of the more difficult things in life. And it was just really, really touching. And then to hear all the cast members like bantering with each other and just saying how close they were and how much they valued each other as like friends, how much the show meant to them personally, was so cool. And you don't see that in every cast and every show, so I'm so glad that's the panel that we made it to this year. I talked to other people who went to other panels. They all said that they were really well run and that they were engaging and had a wonderful time. And I talked to people who've gone to other Sacanimes, and they said their paneling all tends to be very well run and start on time. And the people who are talking seem knowledgeable or entertaining if it's a character panel. So that's wonderful to hear. All right. So now my least favorite part of any review, we're going to talk about the disappointing parts of the con. Fortunately, it is a short list, to my relief, because I don't actually enjoy talking about the negative aspects of con. But I try to present those in the review so that if you are considering going to Sacanime, or somebody from Sacanime who has power to change one of these things sees it, they can go, hey, this is a good point. I never thought about this. Let's bring this up. One of the first things I want to talk about, which is more of a personal thing, was that nobody really respected my pronouns. Obviously, because we had wristbands and not badges, there was no spot for pronouns, but I was wearing them on my mask. I do that at every con so that they can be right there when you're looking at me. It's right here. And I saw several people look at them over the weekend and then still misgender me. I don't know if there's anything the con can necessarily do about that, but it was just a little bit disappointing for me personally. And cons have always, to me, been a safe space to be myself and to be accepted at. I think a lot of people who are on the queer spectrum can say the same thing, and it was just kind of disappointing and disheartening that maybe Sacanime does, the entity does support this, but the individual people who went did not respect me as much, and so that was a little bit disappointing. It did not necessarily reflect on the con itself, I don't think. It was just a little bit disappointing. Like, come on, California, you can do better. Come on. We were also just a little bit disappointed that the only 18 plus content was the cabaret show, which we wanted to get to, but again, we're old. We got back to the hotel room and we're like, it's bedtime now, There was a rave. There was not a formal dance, which is what we tend to go to over raves because I like formal dancing. Again, it didn't necessarily detract from, they weren't a negative experience. It was just something that would have been nice to see. There was also no console gaming room. There was a big tabletop room. There was no console gaming. I don't know if they had a console gaming room and something happened and they're not with Sacanime anymore. I don't know. Again, this was my first time going. I'm not familiar with the con, but it was just kind of weird because they have a console gaming listed on their website, but there's nothing at the con. So we were like, oh, we can go play Mario Kart, and then there was no console gaming room. So we were kind of like, what? The squinty Watchung look of judgment. The couple of things that I will say that did actually negatively impact our con, the website for Sacanime is actually awful. Actually legitimately awful. It is so difficult to navigate. They don't have a page that's just the entire con schedule laid out. You have to flip between every single page to get the individual schedules for everything. And then we had to actually get a notebook with a pen, write down everything in order to sort out what was happening when and what events we wanted to make it to. There was an attendee who did a Google spreadsheet that we ended up looking at that was way more helpful than anything on the website. So that was really kind of disappointing and kind of a struggle to deal with. They did have an app, which is actually something I'm going to talk about when we talk about the positive things next. So they did have a solution for that, but the website itself made it a little bit difficult to kind of navigate if you're used to using the website. The other thing that was disappointing that I did not experience in and of myself, but I heard back from a couple other people who went, was the swap meet was in a room that was way too small and very crowded, and they all said they love the idea of a swap meet. They love going, but they wish it would be in a bigger space, which I understand maybe the con center doesn't have a bigger space, but if it does, that'd be something to look into because people seem to love the swap meet. My group went, we looked in the door, we said there are way too many people in here, we are not doing this, and we turned around and we walked away. So we didn't even get to experience it because of how many people were in there. So it'd be nice to see that move to either a larger place or maybe limit the number of people who can enter or lower the number of people who can have booths there or something just to help accommodate as many people that were crammed in there this year. So all of that being said, before we get to the pleasant surprises, there's a couple things I hope we see the con improve on in the next couple years. I would love to see the schedule out a little bit earlier. It was out about 2 weeks before the con. I remember the days when cons used to have their schedule out a month beforehand, and that was kind of nice, and I missed that. I hope Sacanime improves their website. Please, at least give us a page on the website that has the entire schedule for everything laid out in one place. It'll be so much easier to plan. Thank you. And then credit me with the idea. And then I would also really love to see a dedicated quiet space in the con. There's plenty of rooms in that con center. I would love to see a dedicated quiet area or just a room where those of us who are overstimulated by the amount of people or just need a break to sit and chill can go in this room and just be like, here's a chill room. We're going to just, sit and chill and kind of do whatever away from the hustle bustle of the con. We don't have to be around people. We can just sit in the quiet room. And I think that would be a really cool thing to see for Sacanime, because one of the feedbacks I did get from talking to everybody was that it was kind of overwhelming with how many people were there. And so I think a dedicated quiet room would really be a cool thing to see. And I know some cons have been doing them, and I'd love to see more cons do them, quite honestly. Okay, so now that we are done with all of the negative things, let's talk about some of the positive things and the pleasant surprises from Sacanime. Like, my, I think, biggest, most pleasant surprise of the weekend was the size of the vendors hall. Like, I knew it was sizable. Just looking at the map, I knew it was sizable. I did not expect to walk in and look at a room quite the size of a football field that is full of vendors. And that was really cool to me, to be able to go in. And honestly, like I said, we spent 45 minutes there on Friday, and we walked out, all three of us, with armloads of stuff. And then we proceeded to go shopping and get more stuff all of the days. Usually when I go to a con, I get stuff Friday and that's it. I'm like, no, I got everything I wanted. I didn't see anything else in the dealer's hall. I'm good. And this con, it took us 3 days. That's 4. Hold on. It's hard to bend. It took us 3 days to go through the dealer's hall. We made it through most of it on Saturday, and then we did the last little bit on Sunday. There's a lot of really talented artists that go to this con, and I was really impressed. I loved the amount of variety. Like, we got some plushies. I got 3 plushies, 1 for each day, because it's very important that CJ has plushies. There was so much stuff here that I was just like, I need it. I need it. So it's crazy. There was just so much good merch. So that was a wonderful surprise. The con center itself was a very interesting layout. What I really liked about it was there were actual spots in the convention center that had like little tables and really nice plush chairs that were set aside that you could sit down. If you maybe didn't want to be out of the way of everything happening, you could sit down and still people watch and watch all the people walking by in their costumes. So we did that quite a bit. There was a couple of spots we were like, let's go stand in this spot or sit in these seats or, at these tables and stuff and just chill and like put our bags down for a minute. And we did that, and it was actually very wonderful. And you don't see that at a lot of convention centers. So that was really nice. There were some really nice outdoor spaces for photographs, for gathering when the weather was a little bit nicer. I didn't necessarily get to experience them, but that was a really cool thing to be like, oh look, that'd be a cool place to stand if we come back for the summer one, or, if we go again for the winter and it's a nicer weather out. I love con spaces that have outdoor gathering areas because not everyone does. And it's just nice to have that option to be able to go outside when the weather is nice. I also really liked, even though I hate their website, it was really cool that Sacanime itself had an app that had everything in one spot, which I think maybe they were intending more people to use the app than the website, but some of us still use the website because we didn't know there was an app. It was really cool that there was the app, so every time we were like, well, where is this booth? We could pull it up and we could just go to the vendors page and look up their name or look up their table number or even just look generally in the map that has the vendors area laid out. So that was really cool. And then being able to find like times and stuff, it was really convenient. It was almost more convenient than having a guidebook because everything was on our phone. So we're like, oh, I want to know about this vendor, or I want to know what this panel's about. You could click into it and it was there and it was all on your phone. So that was really cool and I very much enjoyed that. So thank you for giving us that to go with the equally crappy website. The app was wonderful. I appreciate it. 2 thumbs up. Lastly, on a very personal note, I think that the Safe Credit Convention Center has the best pizza I have ever eaten at a convention center. So I will most definitely come back for your pizza if nothing else. Overall, I had a great time at Sacanime Winter. I think we would love to go again. I think it was a great, very chill con with a wonderful, wonderful dealer's hall. If nothing else, go for the shopping. Good first time chill con vibes to it. So it was a nice change of pace. It was a really good con. So if you are interested in going to Sacanime Winter 2024, they already have dates They are right here. And maybe I will see you there next year. Alright, well, if you have enjoyed this video of me talking to myself for the last half hour alone in my closet, please, you know the drill, like, comment, follow, subscribe, share. I tried to combine those two words and it didn't work too well. Anyway, thank you for watching. I hope to see you in the next video, and here's some jingles to send you on your way. This is the best part of being watched on, it really is.